one, go.
Good evening, and you're very welcome to the launch of A Wiser Girl, Moya Roddy's latest novel, and our very first online launch here at Charlie Byrne's Bookshop. So we are delighted to be handmaidens to the launch of this book. Moya has been an old friend and customer of our shop for many, many years. So we are delighted to be launching it this evening. And it is 1975, and Joe Nowd is escaping with a suitcase full of paints and a broken heart going to Italy. Wouldn't we all love to be in 1975 running away to Italy? Um, but before we talk any more about Moya's book, I'd like to hand you over to another great friend of ours, Elaine Feeney. It's been quite a year for Elaine as well. Elaine's book, As You Were, the much and properly fated debut novel from Elaine, came out earlier in the year, and a wonderful piece of sustained interior dialogue from a character called Sinead Hines, a wonderful piece of work. And Elaine is going to launch the book. So I am going to hand you over to Elaine. But before that, I would like to just say that we will have Moya's book for sale on our website. And if you just click on to charliebyrne.ie, you will be brought there. And there will be a link on the Facebook page also. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Elaine Feeney.
Thanks a million, Vinny. That's great. It's absolutely fantastic to be here to launch Moya's absolutely beautiful, beautiful novel, A Wiser Girl. And I'm afraid I'm not nearly as professional as Vinny, so I'm going to have to read from a little bit I wrote about this. I had the pleasure of reading this during the second lockdown, and it has been an absolute page turner. It's a really, really beautiful novel, and I know that Moya spent many years working on it, and it's a fantastic piece of work. So I'd just like to introduce Moya, say a few words about her novel, and then hand over to the author herself. So having left school at 17, Dubliner Moya Roddy went to art college as a night student and holds an MA in writing from NUIG. She continued to paint during a 2-year stay in Italy, which definitely seems to have influenced the novel, before moving to London, where she trained as a television director. Que Sera Sera was written and directed and won a Sony Award at the British Film Institute, and they commissioned her to write her first feature film. Several of her screenplays have been optioned in the United States, and she has worked for Channel 4, the BBC, Scottish Television, and RTE. She published her first novel, The Long Way Home, by Attic Press, and it was described by the Irish Times as simply brilliant. Her collection of short stories, Other People, published by Words on the Street, was nominated for the Frank O'Connor International Short Story Award, and a radio play, Dance Ballerina Dance, was shortlisted for the PJ O'Connor Award and produced by RTE. Her poetry has been shortlisted for the Hennessy Award, and her debut collection, Out of the Ordinary, was shortlisted for the Strong Shine Award. And if that's not enough, she has now managed to complete A Wiser Girl, which opens in Rome in 1975, like Vinny said, with the protagonist Jo setting out on an ambitious journey to Italy, perhaps to escape the love of her past Eamon, for living in Dublin with a broken heart was like crossing a minefield every day, she says. And perhaps to connect with the art she is so passionate about. However, Jo's sensitivity, charm, and sometimes naivety quickly unfold in this novel as the reader is launched along a vibrant and rousing journey. I worried on that first train into Rome why Jo had left home at all, and why she's gone on a challenging adventure. But Jo, as a central character, is complex, plucky, courageous, and talented. She is also real, sensitive, and human. And Moya writes a slew of dynamic and at times deeply troubling support characters. But the title, A Wiser Girl, is fitting. And like all coming-of-age novels, Jo learns a great deal about herself along the way, and along the way with others on the journey. This novel is a wonderful song with a poet's eye and ear, written concisely and skillfully, interspersed with some Italian art references, punctuated with great humour and bawdiness at times. It is a love song to the journey of an individual. It delves into the complexity of the Irish feminine experience abroad, a complex maché of class, divide, wealth, and what it means to others, and realizing that one must sometimes grow up in a very short space of time. Moving forward in a third-person linear narrative, it is interesting in its portrayal of art, that young budding artists struggling to make money, that the class who admire the work often aren't the class that produce it. This is a feminist novel, beautifully composed, and at its core, it shows a deep love of art, a keen understanding of humans, of travel, and of the fragility of youth. It poses questions about how the church pitted body against soul, power against powerlessness, and how to find a voice in the midst of this. With musings on life, art, and the survival of the soul, language carefully executed, and with a talent for dialogue and the aesthetic, Moya Roddy has traced a most magnificent journey with Jo at the centre of a wiser girl about growth, confidence, and ultimately facing and accepting yourself. I'd like to wish you, Moya, the heartiest congratulations. It's not an easy job to finish anything, let alone to finish a novel. So well done. And I'm going to pass it over to Moya herself. Well done.
Okay. Am I on? It's so difficult. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Elaine, for that lovely introduction to the novel and for all those kind words. It's fantastic. And also to Vinny and Charlie Burns for hosting this launch. And I want to thank especially Words in the Street for publishing A Wiser Girl, which I'm really, really pleased with. I love the cover. A lot of people think it's me, but actually it isn't, although we have similar hair. Anyway, I just want to say a little word before I go on, which is just to pay tribute to Charlie McBride, who passed away earlier in the week or at the weekend, and just to say he will be missed in Galway and elsewhere, and to his wife, Aileen. Anyway, it is a very strange time, and it's very strange to be doing this launch here like this on a machine rather than having people and a drink and socializing and talking and laughing and then reading. So it's a strange way to be doing something, but then it's been very strange times we've been living in. So I think it's just, I want to say, first of all, I want to welcome everybody who's watching this evening. And particularly, I want to say hello to my darling daughter, Cassie, whom I haven't seen since last February, to her partner, Dominic. I also want to say hello to my sister, whom I haven't seen for months and months, whose birthday was yesterday. So a late happy birthday, Ita. And I want to also welcome all my friends and everybody who's here and who all have been a great support and very encouraging, through this last time. I suppose one thing is I was laughing there when you were talking about the book about the Italian. I think you can get a crash one thing, if a crash course in basic Italian in this book as well. So with translations right beside them. So that's kind of a added bonus if you get it. It's not the first time that I've written about Jo now. Some of you may know my first book, The Long Way Home, which was also about Jo. And my daughter said I could not stop without showing this. This was up on the wall. So I hope this is The Long Way Home. It's the cover of the book. And it was an Irish Times top 10 book and was described in the Irish Times as simply brilliant. So I hope this next one lives up to that. I'm not going to say an awful lot more. The book is set in Italy. It's about a young girl who goes off. She wants to turn herself into an artist and a woman of the world. She's working class. She's opinionated. She can be a bit of a pain. She's funny, and she's gets into all sorts of things, all sorts of escapades. So what I'm just going to do, the book is divided into 3 sections. And I'm going to have a little drink first because my throat is a bit dry. And then I'm going to read from a little piece from each section, which I think kind of brings out the themes in the book. So I sort of picked them specifically for that reason. And I now have to change glasses. So here we go. So the first section kind of illustrates, well, it brings up her love of art and also her broken heart. So I'll start there. And she's staying in a hostel in Rome now. She's kind of sightseeing before she starts her job as an au pair. And so she's met a guy called Kevin, and while she's in the hostel, and this is a conversation between them. So, are you a painter? Kevin asks. Kind of. Well, I went to college for a while. How did you get started on something like that? I don't know. I was always into drawing. Not that I ever thought of becoming an artist. There's not too many painters where I come from. House painters, all right. There was a shop near my work, had tons of art books. One day I picked one up. Jo stops, reminds herself to speak normally. It was about Sienese art. I didn't even know where Siena was. I'd never heard of it. So what happened? Jo searches for words to convey how the book had changed her life. Within a year of chancing on it, she'd applied to go to art college. The problem is, she's no idea why those particular paintings affected her. What gave them the power to invade her heart? All she knows is they set off a tumult in her body, set it on fire. There was something about them, something intangible, mystical. Jo doesn't believe in God anymore, but religious words are the only ones that come anywhere close to describing what she'd felt, what she feels. I suppose they blew my mind, she says lamely, looking at him, trying to write on her face all the things she's too embarrassed to say. Kevin cracks his fingers. Hey man, I know exactly what you mean. I'm into surfing, big time. You wait for the right wave to come along. When it does, wow. You stare that fucker in the eye and you ride it. Nothing else matters, just you and the wave. It's better than sex, lasts longer. Mentally, Jo reopens the book, is overawed once more by the beauty, the colours, a blue so pure it hurts, a red to stop your heart. Even though most of the paintings are about ordinary things, interiors or street scenes, women going about their daily tasks, episodes from the life of Jesus, within them, Jo catches a glimpse of her own being. She lets out a long breath. Only an Egypt would compare it to surfing. What she's talking about is sacred. Welcome back to the land of the living. Kevin jumps to his feet, his tan belly exposed as he stretches. Guess I'll hit the sack. By the by, if you don't have a guidebook, I can lend you mine. At least it'll get some use. I'll bring it down in the morning. Of course, you might not want to have breakfast with a Philistine. With a lazy wave, Kevin strolls away. The door swings shut behind him, and the warmth inside Jo ebbs. It was stupid thinking a guy like Kevin would understand. Surfing. What would Eamon say? Jo's heart free falls. Who does she think she's fooling? If Eamon as much as crooked his little finger, she'd be back in Dublin in a shot. To hell with Italy, to hell with painting, to hell with everything. So that's that bit from the beginning of the novel, as I say, set in Rome. Thank you. And the second part of the Rome, she's now working as an au pair, which she absolutely hates. And the snotty woman she's working for, Anna, doesn't like her. She gets on okay with the Tim, but there's complications. Anyway, this is a little bit where she's thinking about her life as a woman and what the limitations are and what her hopes are. So the house is in darkness by the time Jo slips out of the boys' room and into her own. She's going to have to come up with a different game. It took forever to quieten them after all the horseplay. Undressing, she wonders what Anna and Tim were fighting over. She could hear them shouting their heads off while she and the boys were messing. Growing up, she'd always imagined rich people led happy, excited, fulfilled lives. Anna's to blame, Jo decides, fluffing up the duvet. If Tim as much as opens his mouth, she's straight in with a remark about not needing to be lectured to or the boredom of living with a professor. Worse than that, she resents Jo showing any interest in whatever he's talking about. She reminds Jo of the girls she used to pal around with when she was a teenager. If she dared bring up anything besides boys and clothes, they'd be onto her like a ton of bricks. As for mentioning art, of course, the fact she was a culture didn't help, or the fact she had culture parents didn't help. She'd always stuck out, had always been an outsider. Anna doesn't have their excuse. She's educated. No one's allowed to forget she went to Cambridge. Jo checks to make sure the alarm's set before turning off the light. Happing herself up, she lets out a long sigh. She does not want to end up like Anna or her mother or any of the women she knew growing up, married for the sake of it or stuck in dead-end jobs. That's what had been in store for her. Avoiding it was seen as getting above herself, as betrayal. Well, she's every intention of getting above herself. She's always been looking for a way out, always hoping her prince would come. Eamon mightn't have been royalty, but he'd opened doors she'd never been able to enter in a million years. She has that to thank him for. Through him, she'd met famous people, important people, people with interesting jobs, photographers, writers, gallery owners, artists who were still living, not dead and hanging on walls. Of course, everything had vanished as soon as she and Eamon split. Overnight, she'd returned to being a nobody. Nobody but different, out on a limb. Her old life no longer an option. Jo pulls the quilt up. Eamon's world was a man's world. Women were hangers-on, girlfriends, wives if they were lucky. Was there no way a woman could break into that kind of world on her own merit? That's that little bit. So that's that little bit. And I mean, it's very much part of the book is Jo's becoming aware. There's a fantastic character, well, I think she's a fantastic character in it called Camilla. And Jo, through her, I mean, Jo sees herself as very liberated and, you know, really kind of, and it's only through meeting Camilla that Jo, I mean, realizes like, or allows herself realize at first she's very much on the defensive, that maybe she's not as liberated, not as control of her destiny as she thinks she is, you know, so that's a very important part of the book. I was going to read something about Camilla, but there's a lot of Italian when she's speaking, so I felt it was kind of, I wouldn't. Anyway, this is from the third section, and it's where she meets Philip, who becomes a love interest for the first time. And again, Jo is trying to, it's an interesting, she's trying to fall in love as she sees the way that Eamon had fallen in love with his body and not with his soul, where she'd given her soul to him. And now she's determined she's not going to do that again. So that's another part of the journey for her to see whether you can do that, whether she can behave in that way, or whether women are allowed to behave in that way. So this is the bit where she's met a guy called Rupert, and he's I love him. And anyway, Rupert is very rich, and he falls for her. And Jo wishes she could fall for him, but she doesn't. She likes him as a friend. But he invites her out to his mansion. Or his parents' mansion, and Margaret, who's his mother, thinks Jo has her eye on him, a bit of a gold digger. And so, but anyway, while she's there, she meets Philip for the first time. And I'll just have another little sip. Okay. Oh, by the way, it's at the swimming pool, and Jo hasn't admitted she can't swim. So, and she's terrified that they're going to find out. Okay, okay. Get changed, Rupert shouts, seeing her. The water's wonderful. His mother smiles wearily from her colourful perch. Give the girl a chance, Rupert. Poor darling. He gets so enthusiastic about things. Thank goodness for everyone's sake they die out quickly. She throws Jo a pitying glance. Jo's antennae rear. What a wagon. Does this woman think she's trying to steal her precious son? Meeting Margaret's eyes, Jo realizes it's exactly what she thinks, and she wants Jo to be under no illusions what her attitude is. So she isn't good enough. Maybe he's never found what he likes, Jo counters. Rupert was telling me. Ignoring her remark, Margaret turns attentively to Rupert as he wades towards them. What are you two talking about? Come on, Jo. Expertly, he arches his body, dives in. Moment later, he surfaces, water spinning from him like shiny coins. Oh, you should have told me, Jo protests. I didn't bring a swimsuit. Oh, Mummy, aren't there some at the house? I don't think so. Who needs a swimsuit? As Margaret blithely unknots the sarong she's wearing, Jo looks away. She's never seen an older woman without clothes. The thought scares her. Young girls and their modesty, Margaret laughs. Abandoned by the poolside, Jo watches as Margaret and Rupert cavort, pitching water over each other, dodging and play acting as if she isn't there. Now she's been exposed as an interloper. The two of them can carry on with being themselves. For a second time, she wishes she hadn't come, wishes the ground would open up and swallow her. Philip, there you are. Rupert bounces up in the water. Turning, Jo sees a slim, tall, dark-haired man strolling down the path. Nearing her, he doffs an imaginary cap. Rupert hops out and, after shaking himself off like a dog, bounds towards the stranger. Where did you get to? I waited ages. Christ, Jo thinks, he's like a Greek god in jeans, observing the visitor's chiseled face, the line of his jaw, the perfect proportions of his body. I changed my mind, that's all, decided to walk. A nasal American accent tickles Jo's ears. Covertly, she watches the newcomer peel off his jacket, drape it across a chair. The white shirt he's wearing is tight-fitting. His narrow denim show off his long legs, his hip. Jo swivels her eyes away as Rupert's mother emerges from the water, one gracious hand extended. Philip presses it to his lips, an amused expression on his face, as if it's the most natural thing in the world for a middle-aged woman to pop up naked in front of him. Silly boy, walking all that way in the heat. Margaret's magisterial voice booms. In a flash, Jo understands that Rupert's mother doesn't need to be dressed. Money clothes her. If anyone's naked, it's Jo. Okay, so that's the last bit I'm going to read, and I hope it's kind of whet your appetite for more. I'm going to hand over to Vinny in a moment, but I just want to say one thing, because I know some people are, he's going to maybe, I don't know what he's going to say, maybe more of a sales pitch, which fine, please buy the book. But I just want to say that for people who don't like shopping online, you can ring up and order the book and pay over the phone with your card. And also it can be posted to you, because I know there'll be people ringing or watching from England and American places. And hello to all my friends in London and Bath and I won't remember where they all are in England, different places, and also to people in America. I know I've got somebody in California and someone in Chicago. Anyway, so yeah. And yeah, I love it. I just wish you were all here. We were all drinking and having a wine and going out afterwards. Anyway, am I talking too much? Maybe I am. So I'm just going to hand it back now, I think. And thank you both for being here with me. Thank you for all the support you've given me. It's been fantastic, and I do appreciate it.
Well done. Only delighted. Back to Vinny.
Our pleasure, Moya, and thank you for asking us to do something. It's the first thing we've been asked to do since the launch of JP McMahon's Irish Cookbook in March. So we are delighted to be able to be the launchers of A Wiser Girl, and thanks to Elaine as well. And again, congratulate Elaine on her great debut novel this year, As You Were. Now, yes, as Moya said, we will have copies of A Wiser Girl. They will be up on our website. That's a very attractive pose there, Elaine, just holding the book beautifully.
Oh yes, here we are.
We will have copies of this up on our website. If you're in Ireland, we can post it to you for €3, thanks to the munificence and generosity of Unpost. So we can do that. The postage overseas is a little bit more expensive, but it's not very dear. And as Moya said, if you the website is very easy to do. It's a click and another click. But if you have any problems, just ring us and we can process the payment over the phone, and we can do it that way. So congratulations once again to Moya on the book, and A Wiser Girl, I think, is out there.
Hey, congratulations, Moya.
Absolutely. Well done, Moya. And maybe we will have an opportunity to have that drink and a few people around
Yeah.
We will certainly supply the parish hall in which to do that, should that be allowed at some point soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye everyone.
Okay.
Happy Christmas.
Happy
Well done,
Happy
Moya.
Christmas to everybody.
Vinny and
Absolutely.
everyone at Charlie Burns, and bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.